Black Myth Wukong producer is pissed they did not win Game of the Year at the Game Awards this year. And with Fang G, the producer's comments, which we will definitely get to, being a little bit critical of the Game Awards, it sparked a ton of backlash of people calling him a sore loser and people not happy with the comments that he made. And we also learned that multiple years ago, he already wrote the speech for Black Myth Wukong winning the Game Awards and taking home the Game of the Year trophy. And although they didn't get the main one, they still did get the Player's Choice, so they came away with something, but they didn't come away with what they wanted. But before we get into the whole story and his comments on this situation, as well as my take on things, which I think tends to be a little bit different from what I've seen out there on the internet from a lot of people. Thank you guys so much for over 870 subscribers. If you are new to the channel, you like gaming news, gaming reviews with RPGs and action adventure type of games, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the video you see here. Now, let's get into the content. So what did Fang G actually say here after the Game Awards to spark all of this backlash against him and a little bit also against the game of Black Myth Wukong? Well, he started off saying that the 4 nominations, Best Action, Art Direction, Best Game Direction, and Game of the Year, were a first for a Chinese game. Yet, he must admit there's a sense of loss and regret. More than anything though, there's a letting go of illusions. The games nominated this year were all exceptional, but honestly, I still can't figure out what the criteria were for Game of the Year. I feel like I came all the way here for nothing. He then continues saying, since last night, I've seen a lot of strong dissatisfaction and frustration in players' comments, often expressed humorously or ironically, which made me laugh. I completely understand these feelings and share the frustration, because behind these emotions lies not pain or malice, but dignity and confidence. When you're so confident and yet don't receive the recognition you expected, it's natural to feel upset. In fact, I wrote my Game of the Year acceptance speech 2 years ago, only to never get the chance to deliver it. I would also like to mention this was translated over, I believe, from Mandarin, so a lot of people have said that they've lost in translation the humor he was trying to bring about here. But that's also besides the point, and I think I have a very different take here than everybody out there calling him a quote-unquote sore loser, and I might be biased again because Black Myth Wukong is my favorite game, and I think this studio did an incredible job for their first game and AAA experience to be a game as good as Black Myth Wukong. But he literally says within these comments that he's specifically saying these because he's upset based on how confident he was creating this game and how much he obviously loved the game he was creating and the people he was working with to build this experience. He said the other games were absolutely exceptional. I think he's just very upset that he himself didn't win, and I think that's okay. When you spend years and years and years working on something that you genuinely believe is the best version of what you can create, and you don't get the recognition that you think you deserve for the game, then you're going to be upset for not receiving that recognition. I think that's completely normal. If you go in for a job, you think you're the best candidate, and you don't get that job after a series of interviews and a series of people telling you, damn, that interview was really, really good, I think you're probably going to get the job, then you're going to be pissed off. Now, you might not vocalize this to the world, however, at the same time, you're going to vocalize it to someone. You're definitely going to have some internal dialogue about how mad you are, and you're definitely going to probably at some point feel a way about some of the other interviewees, not maybe thinking they're as good as you were or getting the same credit that you got when you were interviewing for that position. Now, in terms of it being the right move to actually come out and make a statement here or not is not necessarily what I'm arguing. I just think it was not out of self-malice for any of these other games out here or for the Game Awards themselves. However, I do think it was very interesting when he talks about the Game Awards criteria, because breaking it down specifically with the panelists, they have 90% influence over who wins the Game of the Year, with only 10% being the players. And obviously the player's choice is 100% based on player votes. Looking at some of the people who are actually voting here, you have people like NPR, Rolling Stone, Variety, The Atlantic, and granted, you have some actual gaming journalists as well, but others like The Guardian, and just some places that obviously aren't necessarily specifically for gaming, but with the Game Awards, and one of the biggest criticisms I have of it is this constant approach to be as mainstream as possible and pander to a lot of these mainstream publications that a lot of times don't have a lot of relation to video gaming in general. And the ones that actually do represent gaming did write hit pieces, if you guys remember, about Game Science, saying they're a misogynistic company, etc., accusing them of a lot of things in terms of being sexist within the company, and a lot of these things were actually proven false a couple weeks down the line, which a lot of these gaming journalist sites did not cover. And on top of this, although game companies like Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony don't actually vote or judge the games as judges at the Game Awards, they do make up a big portion of who nominates these games to actually be able to be voted on by the judges. So when a Sony game like Astrobot, a game that is pretty much just an advertisement for other Sony games, wins the Game of the Year, I don't think it's all that surprising. Although granted, Astrobot was a very, very good game. But when you go back to Fang's statements, and he's kind of calling out the Game Awards in a way by basically saying he doesn't know what the criteria is for the game who actually wins, I think he might be alluding to this a little bit. And lastly, I want to address what he said last in his statement, where he said he actually already wrote a speech multiple years ago, before the game was done with development, before the Game of the Year awards, and before the game actually came out, and this speech was obviously for when he won the Game of the Year. Now, I saw a lot of people in the community saying he was arrogant or self-absorbed for doing this multiple years ago, and I think that's a load of BS. If you are a fan of sports like I am, someone like Tom Brady wrote every single person who was drafted before him and used this as motivation. People do this to manifest them winning the Game of the Year or manifest them in other avenues of competitiveness. And that's really what this is. Him just being competitive, him being confident and passionate in his game and the people he works with in his studio, and knowing that he has a good product on his hands. Now, if the game came out and was an absolute blunder and was terrible, okay, maybe you could look at him as being arrogant. He doesn't actually know what he's doing. He doesn't actually know how to create a good game, etc. He's just doing this out of too much confidence for someone that doesn't have the skill and ability. But obviously, that was not the case. Black Myth Wukong was an incredible game. Whether it won or not, it was nominated and also won the Player's Choice. It was my favorite game and a lot of other people's favorite games of the entire year. So it obviously was a hit. It was a huge game. It succeeded every single expectation people had for it. And I think regardless of what he's saying, he should be proud of what him and his team created. But overall, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this whole situation. Do you think he was a little bit arrogant and self-absorbed and honestly just was a sore loser, or do you kind of agree with me here where you just think he was very confident and he's a very competitive person who wanted and thought his game was the best game at the Game of the Year awards? Like this video if you like the video, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.